Welcome to the OCVarsity Hoop Show. My name's Carlos Arias, and you all know Mr. Friday Night, and it's time to talk South Coast League basketball. It's on this week, the rematch. Capistrano Valley, the good guys, going down to Mission Viejo to play the rematch. What do you think, Fred?
Well, it was a great game here at Capistrano Valley that I was here at a few weeks ago. A lot of student cheering activity. That makes it a lot of fun. It was a really good matchup, and I think for Capistrano Valley, looking at it from their angle, they got to really stop all these Mission Viejo football/basketball guys from crashing the boards. Talking principally about Jaleel Pinner, you know, an all-county running back going to USC for football. Man, that guy attacks the glass like crazy. And even if he doesn't come down with the offensive rebound, he keeps it alive enough for another guy, another teammate to come get it. And then they've got Max Redfield. And the thing with Max is we see a lot of football players who go play basketball, and they're not really basketball guys. Max Redfield's a football guy who can play basketball, handles the ball really well, good shooter, great court sense. I think he's a really terrific player. And then they've got, you know, Evan Zeller, who's really gets better year by year right now, a junior. And Sage Stone, pretty tough, you know, tall guy inside, you know, pretty good for them also. You know, just a bunch of good basketball players all over the floor, and Troy Rowland, the coach, does a nice job with them.
Well, what about the good guys? How about Capistrano Valley? Who they got coming into this matchup?
To me, the key for the game is going to be, you know, they got to hit some shots outside. They're going to be without Nick Thomas, who's got a knee issue, and he goes off sometimes. Once he gets hot, he's a really fine three-point shooter, one of those streaky guys. He's a fine, solid player. Alex Lipovich, that guy's as, you know, constant as it gets. He's going to get his 15 to 17, going to hit the big shots, going to play very smart out there. But really the key is the big guy inside who's really improved a lot is Chris Bench. He's got to seal off inside. He's got to pull down defensive glass. He's got to be the guy to make sure that Pinner, Redfield, and all those guys don't get those second shots, Carlos. I think Chris Bench is really going to be a key guy to this game. And then, you know, you're going into Mission's gym. You know, I think in the South County, the South Coast League, home court advantage is worth, you know, maybe a half dozen points. So you got to hit your shots early. You can't let Mission get ahead of your Capistrano Valley. They've got to be in there in the game and in the fourth quarter, the last, you know, 30 seconds and 40 seconds. Then, you know, hopefully one of your big guys will hit the big shot.
For more with the Cougars, Steve Fryer caught up with Coach Mulligan and Alex Lipovich.
Alex, you got a big one coming up Thursday against Mission Viejo. You got him at your place a few weeks ago, and now you're going over to Mission. You know, what'd you learn from that game in terms of what's going to succeed? What are the things you're going to have to do on Thursday to get another W against Mission?
Definitely our defense, transition defense, as well as sharing the ball. You know, we don't have Nick this time around, but you know, we still feel like we can get it done. You know, he's a big part, but you know, defense it's going to come down to defense and stops and moving the ball.
What do you got to establish if you're going to get a W in Mission's gym?
Oh, we got to keep all those really, really talented athletes out of the key. If they're able to get to the rim constantly, we're going to have some big issues. So the thought is keep them away from the rim where they can go up and readily rebound it. And I think we have a better idea of what we're up against this time. We're a little short-handed, but nothing that can't be overcome, and it's always fun to play at Mission's gym.
What's a team that's really made big improvements, great strides throughout the season? Who's really standing out to you right now?
You know, we saw Ocean View at the Nike Extravaganza beat Mission Viejo, and they played great, beat them by like a dozen points or something like that. Ocean View, of course, they lost their longtime coach, the only coach in the school's history, Jim Harris, who passed away, you know, a few months ago, and that was just a shell shock of a thing to get through. You know, really hard to figure that out. But, you know, they've got Jimmy Harris, Jim's son, and Tim Walsh, the co-coach, is doing a great job. These guys are playing great right now. They're playing that Golden West League. They don't get a whole lot of competition, a lot of challenge in that league. But when we saw them, you know, they try and step out and play somebody pretty good. Huntington Beach some weeks ago. And then over the weekend at the Nike Extravaganza Modern Day, we saw them play and really handle a pretty good Mission Viejo team. They've got a big guy inside, 7-foot Connor Clifford, who's a very strong and very agile player. And Josh Mishler's a pretty good player. They've got, you know, Robbie Weaver played great on Saturday. Some tremendous basketball players. They're going to be a fun team to watch, and keep an eye on Ocean View in the playoffs, everybody, because they're going to be somebody to watch.
Well, if you haven't seen any of the highlights, our man Jonathan Khamis went crazy at the Nike Extravaganza, so check that out on OCVarsity.com, where we got you covered.